having to bring something to the table to now where like, oh no, my vagina is the table or something like, whatever hippity hoppity phrases we're using nowadays.
My vagina is the table. Okay. Dining in and eating out, so to speak.
You drive with dirty glasses your whole life, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't know how dirty they are until you start cleaning them. And
Yeah.
that's literally how life felt.
You peaked. It's done. Everything else is downhill from here then. So,
Conversations with people who are anti-abortion but have had unprotected sex because high hypocrite. And for the people who are pro-abortion but have unprotected sex, I'm not having a conversation with you either because you lack responsibility.
pretend like there aren't predators and prey is again ignoring consequence, ignoring reality. There absolutely are predators.
So, in today's episode, and also mind my amazing backdrop today, in today's episode of Fearless Wolf with Diamonds and Demons, we discuss feminism, relationships, personal growth, drama triangles, how we societally and culturally have lost the rite of passage on how to behave, how to introspect, how to adult and mature mostly. We talk about birth control, sexual liberation. We do all of it. I promise you'll get really upset and you will really, really love it because it's this like sadistic thing we have going on, right? It's a two-part, so a week from now I'll release the second part because we initially had some internet connection problems, but it was a great point after an hour to, move it on to the next one. So you'll see us next week. We're continuing the conversations as we always do with Diamond. So share, tag, like, comment, hashtags, all the things. And I'll see you next round. And before we jump into the official episode today at Fearless World, I just want to point out this is hashtag Team No Delusion. So everything you'll see, intro, midtro, intro, recording, everything is raw footage, one take. I will not be doing or redoing or participating in the whole Hollywood thing where everything needs to look polished or fake or perfect, because that's just not real life. So with that being said, welcome into the real world, and now we're jumping into the episode. So today at Fearless World with Diamond and Demons, new series, episode 3 today. Here from Redneck Paradise in undisclosed location with my amazing Kelly Diamond in disclosed location. And for one, you've been on a roll with your Facebook posts. Well, you're always on a roll, but you've been specifically on a roll. One thing that I really appreciate about you is your ability to dissect certain thinking patterns, mechanisms, and the reasoning behind the patterns. And what I wanted to touch on today, because I feel like the motto of our conversation is hashtag follow us for insults that are also life hacks. Because that's basically what we're doing, right?
Right. The insulting truth. Yes.
The insulting truth. Like the insulting part is entertaining for us, and the life hacks part is educational for everyone, or at least it sparks conversation and elicits some type of, thinking and introspection.
Yeah.
But one thing that we started in the last episode, and perhaps is relevant, perhaps not relevant at all, is how obviously a common recurring subject being the dysregulated and weak generation that is following us, and how there's a very much like, our parents were the bad people and they didn't do this good and everything is trauma, which is the Gaber, whatever the fuck his name is, that
Oh
I
yeah,
absolutely
good lord.
dislike. But
Yeah.
today I would like to perhaps touch on, because for those who don't know, which is obviously almost everyone who's listening, because Kelly is new to y'all, you're welcome, by the way. Kelly and her partner, Kelly and her partner have like one of those hashtag goals, relationship goals. Um, So I would like to touch on relationships today, and mostly
Mm,
on how we came to the point where um we created a dating scene slash world where women think just existing and having a pussy somehow entitles them to, you know, men with lots of money or men with lots of resources of various kinds.
yeah.
And it kind of combined with feminism eliminated us, or alleviated perhaps, what some people use, not my choice of words,
Mm,
on being a good person,
mm,
in the sense of be, you know, contributing, productive, working
mm,
on ourselves, self-awareness, introspection, great
yeah.
communicator, right? Or
Yeah.
so I would like to hear your idea on how we, as an mostly American audience, how we got from everyone having to bring something to the table to now where, like, oh no, my vagina is the table, or something, like, you know, whatever hippity hoppity phrases we're using nowadays.
My vagina is the table. Okay. Dining in and eating out, so to speak.
That
The
was great.
delay.
Hell yeah. Okay. Okay.
Anyway. Anyway. So the so I think people in general get pushed to extremes, right? It didn't start as an extreme because the extreme at one point was just women's suffrage, right? Just want to vote like everyone else. And I have my issues with it. But nonetheless, it wasn't a whole upheaval of, society and culture. And it was basically trying to even the playing field and even the scales. So whatever he can do, I should be able to do and have the choice to do, right? He can vote. He can also not vote if he doesn't want to. I should be presented the same choices. Fair enough, right? And I think it got to a point where, and we can talk about whether or not there are, provocateurs that stirred up those feelings, right? Whether or not that was some sort of agenda driven thing. But in the end, and the net result is that the frustration hit a fever pitch when, you know, several different things were being brought to light. Now, you can say, like the voting thing, isolate a thing and say, you know what, I'd also like to do that, right? Okay. So if we had just said, I would also like to get a bank account, I would also like to get a line of credit, right? And treated it on an issue by issue basis, it would not have been nearly as bad as having the whole liberation movement just as this tidal wave of shit that washes away everything good about society along with whatever was bad, right? And then replaces
Mm-hmm.
it with what,
Absolutely.
right? Like that's the
Repeat
thing,
that one more time. Repeat that one more time.
right? So it's the tidal wave of shit that's washing away everything good and bad and then replacing it with what? That's, I think, and that's the thing, right? That's the key. So like if you distill down the root cause of what it was, let's say legitimate frustration, right? Legitimate, I can't buy a house because I can't get a mortgage and I can't get a line of credit and I can't get a bank account. Fair, that's a fair grievance, right? To I don't need no man has gotten like,
There we go.
I was like, how did you make that leap though, right? So going from, I should be able to, and this is the thing, it always starts small. Think about, like, if you take it outside of the cultural context for a second, look at something as simple as gun control, right? Let's put it aside because feminism has its feelings attached to it. We'll go to something more objective like gun control. You have gun control. It's just common sense laws. It's just common sense. It's just, we're not taking your guns. We're just putting some safety measures in place, so everyone is safe. And it's like, and so, same thing, that the same argument was made for driver's licenses, same thing was made for registration. It's just to make sure don't be so unreasonable. So everybody's like, okay, I'll be reasonable, because that's what boomers are. Boomers are reasonable. That they pride themselves on this. They do. Like, that whole generation is like, hey, I'm not an unreasonable person. I'm with it. You tell me this is the good citizen thing to do, I'll do it. I mean, I'm a rule follower. They are rule followers. They really are. I mean, that, that rebellion that they had in the 60s, they got reeled in. Go look at Jane Fonda. That bitch was like protesting in the streets, and then she realized it wasn't going to make her any money, and now she's selling aerobics and skinny, and like toxic skinniness to fucking women. She was, she immediately reeled it in. She did. They all did. Right. So but the reality is that it's creeps. It's a mission creep. So it was, we want the vote. Okay, have the fucking vote. There you go. And now we want a bank account. We want to be able to go get a job and have a bank account independent of men. And we want to be able to get a line of credit and whatever. Fair enough. Okay. And the same thing happened, and this is not, this is not me making judgments on what women wanted, right? You want that. The objective political answer, the most political and pragmatic answer is fine. I make no judgments about that. That sounds practical enough to me, fine. So the same is true with, the idea of like abortions and not having, unwanted pregnancies and being saddled with, a situation where you can't get out, whatever. Okay, politically speaking, right? Because there's no moral judgments here, because that's not what politics is. Politics shouldn't be morality. I know people like to infuse it with that, but morality stands separate, right? Because morality and ethics should be leagues above what politics could possibly deliver you. So like, if you're going to have an ethical conviction about something, you can go do that. But politics is just to make sure everybody's just going to be cool. Like, it's really just there to make sure that like the wheels are greased and then we go home. Okay, that's it. Like, I'm not the machine. I'm the one that greases the machine in a perfect world. That's not what government actually does, but nonetheless, that's the deal. So then you have this thing where I think it became, like, for example, how more in more contemporary times you had Black Lives Matter, and to some degree one could sympathize with the origin point where you said, dude, with the police brutality though, and with the and with this with this unaccountability, and maybe we should at least look at the accountability factor of the police departments, and maybe we should, one could make that case, and it's a sound one. But it got carried away. It became this whole politicized movement. It became a corporation. Next thing you know, you got people embezzling money and siphoning it off for themselves, and it's a completely corrupt thing. Unions, same thing. You can say it started off as the right thing. People want safe work conditions. Okay, fine. Well, next thing you know, you got Jimmy Hoffa and the freaking mafia infiltrating this shit. You've got way too much embezzlement happening there. Corruption coming out of its ears, like it's hardly recognizable as what it started as. So I understand the origin point, right? I do. I understand the origination, the frustration that precipitated this. Where I think it went off the rails is that we started getting, people capitalized on it, and people started, making careers out of it, right? Like, so my oppression becomes your career, in the same way poverty has become somebody's career. So now it's not even in my best interest to fix it, because then I'm out of a
Right.
job.
And I want to add to that, like from a complete outsider's perspective, because this is the Western Hemisphere that we're speaking of, right? Like
Right.
these concepts exist in the Western Hemisphere, and coming from East Europe, I remember going to West Europe,
Mm.
and basically upon late teenager years, being exposed to these ideas like in a
Mm.
realistic sense. I remember thinking, oh, so you want me to be the woman and the guy in one? Like,
Right.
it sounds like a scam, if anything, right? Because the simplified version now, back in the day, back in my teenager years, was like, okay, you got to be and working for yourself, making money for yourself, and you need to do the household. And later on, very quickly on, as it even got more momentum amongst my peers, it turned into basically we're all behaving like men,
Right.
but we
Right.
also got to look pretty.
Right. That's right.
Like, this sounds like a scam.
It just it was a grift. It turned into a grift when they said you can have it all rather than saying you can have one or the other, right? Because men never signed up to be household
Trade-off.
engineers, right? Like that's not, they didn't say, "Oh, I want what women have." I mean, they do now, but in a more sinister way. But I would say in terms of like, men weren't saying, "I want to stay at home with the kids and do the things." No, they were like, "I'm happy to go out there, pound the pavement, work my ass off, deal with a shitty boss, come home and do and bring home the bacon, do the yard work, do the handyman shit around the house. I'm happy to do it. I signed up for it. That's what I signed up for. I'm going to do it." And women looked at men and said, "I want what you have." And so my issue with feminism is the fact that it stems from what men have. It never stemmed from us just wanting something for ourselves. It was an
There we
idea
go.
that was envy first. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not.
Hmm.
And look, I'm not against having jobs, careers, business. I don't give a shit. Like, there's no judgment on it. But I'm talking about like
Hmm.
the impetus behind it and the motives that predate my existence, right? I mean, I was born into it, and my parents ushered this shit in. I didn't. I had nothing to do with it. I'm playing the game they left me, So it's like
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
only so much I can do to jockey around and fix and adjust for that. I think retrospectively, I probably could have done things a little differently, but but it is what it is. So I think where it gets to be grifty is that we're selling the whole kit and caboodle, and then women are getting burned out. They're like, "How am I supposed to have kids, take care of the house, and do my wifely duties, and have a job, and do this, and you're putting all this on me?" And it's like, no, girl, you sought that. You went out and got that for yourself, and that's
You
okay.
you wanted the
But
career thing.
you wanted all that. And so you said, "I'm just like you." Well, then I want him to do what I was doing. But he didn't want that. He didn't sign up for that. Right. And so it becomes inequitable in the sense that it was like, you're moving the fucking goalposts. Like, if this is what you, I mean, that's fine. Look, if you've got that arrangement with your man, then you've got that arrangement with your
Sure.
man. Fine. I
We're
don't
not
give a shit.
speaking of individual
Right.
dynamics and contracts,
100%.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, look, whatever arrangement you have with your man, have it. I mean, he's cool, you're cool, then I don't give a shit, right? I mean, but the
Right.
issue was, socially speaking, culturally speaking, men said, "Fine, you can do it, but I'm still not signing up for your shit. I can't bear the kids. I
Hmm.
can't breastfeed. I'm not doing those things, right?
Hmm.
It's not in me to be this nurturing thing.
Hmm.
I'm not wired this way. I'm still meant to
Hmm.
take the kid out and throw the ball, teach them how to change the tire, make sure that they're on time and they don't act out of line. Like, so that's still my rule. My rule doesn't change because yours did. And I think that's what kind of like got, it's like Eve bit the apple and now Adam's on the hook type of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like you kind of did that. I allegorically it fits. The shoe fucking fits. Wear it. Okay, it's like, so I think, and I think women started getting sold this idea that they can be just like men, but we're not wired like them. And I think it's starting to
Well,
hit.
right. And I want to add to that to illustrate more of that, right? Because I want to stay away from completely sounding red pilled, and I'm using air quotes here right now,
Yeah.
right? Where
No. Yeah.
sex for fun, etc., is bad, etc., and trad
No.
life is the only life. I want to stay away from that.
No.
However,
Yeah. And I
I
don't.
think it resulted. Right. I think it resulted in a lot of self harm for women, even like
Yeah.
sexually starting to mimic male behavior, right? Where I'm like,
That's
oh,
right.
I'm cold. I am emotionless. I can
Yeah.
just have my, my clit rubbed and, hip and hopping dicks up and down here and feel absolutely great, which
Yeah.
rarely, and again, for context, for new listeners, I have traveled 48 countries, 44 states. I've lived in 9 countries, speak 9 languages. Like, I've met people, and I have
Hmm.
yet to meet or apply the consensus that women are the same at sexual stuff, right? The way that women are the same like men. It's just not the case.
It's
And
not.
here
It's
everyone
not.
like, everyone's indoctrinated by like feminism or like what it like the aftermath of it, right? Which is
Right.
goalless, it's purposeless, and now we're
Right.
just trying to mimic men
Right.
in the process, and while we're harming ourselves.
Well, we're putting on. Yeah, I mean, we're putting. We're trying to wear. We're trying to wear masculinity in a way that that doesn't fit. The pants don't fucking fit. So it's like, and it looks awkward because it's like the like I said, individually speaking, however you work through your shit and go through life is neither here nor there. But I do think that I think we were sold a bill of goods to say that we're wired the same way and that we are the same sexual beings as men, and that when in fact there are objective differences, one of which being that we bear major consequences that men simply don't. The risks
Word.
that we bear
Elaborate.
are
Elaborate.
pregnancy. The recipient of bodily fluids makes us more susceptible to any sort of STD. Like, there's a lot. Okay. And so we can't pretend and go through the world like those fucking things don't exist.
Word.
You don't get to turn that off. That's fine. You want to go out and do the thing. Go do the thing. Do all the things. Whatever. But your consequences aren't the fucking same. And we have to
Right.
stop
And just
pretending that
because
they are. Like
because
we
you
do.
don't want them to be true doesn't mean
Right.
that they're less true.
Right. And then you sitting there telling me that, well, birth control liberated us. All for 5 minutes until you found out that it was fucking with your hormones, and now you're all jacked up and you don't know, and you're trying to find some balance in your life again. Because, I mean, it happened to me. I mean, I was on a low dose and it was still like,
Yeah.
I still had, and it's like, don't tell me that there's only trade-offs. That's it.
and
There's only
and
trade-offs.
I really want to dive in for a second because we beautifully side jump and dive
Yeah.
on the birth control thing because I remember, so I'm 14, I'm at that point living in the Netherlands, and I remember there was this wave amongst my what's probably resembling for us it's called middle school, but probably in America it would be high school, assuming that
Mm-hmm.
age, right?
Yeah.
And there's this wave of like almost a hype of going on birth control, and
Mm.
obviously we're all like teenagers, we got pimples and we don't like our periods, right?
Mm.
So that like the birth control pill was almost marketed to us. Not even like
Yeah.
not
Oh yeah.
getting pregnant was a byproduct, right? The first
Right.
thing that it was marketed for is that you can skip your period,
You
and
can get rid of
to
your
your
acne.
and your skin will clear up. And
Yeah.
just as a reference, as a personal, I went to the doctor which at age 14, at least in the Netherlands, West Europe, most of West Europe, you can go to the doctor and they have a secrecy unless it's like really life threatening or shit. So I'm like, hey, I want clear skin. Acne annoys me, or I'm my period hurts. I want it to be less
Yeah.
painful, and I get a recipe. And just again to dive deeper in it, I got the heaviest
Mm.
control, which was like in hindsight, this is now it becomes an insurance, and which ones gets paid more, etc. Kind of, it becomes a
Right.
capitalist instead of like which one was the best for me. So
Mm.
I'm on birth control from age 14. I am those who have followed me, like I am a good type of crazy person, but back then I was absolutely fucking batshit crazy. Like I'm hormonal. I am not understanding life, let alone even understanding a bit of myself. Combine
Mm.
that with an excessive, chaotic, and turbulent external circumstances, and you have a catastrophe formula, right?
Right.
I've gone through shit that I should have never gone through. That again was just a beautiful, perfect formula. And when I went off birth control at, I want to say, 27. So I am, um, and for the Europeans listening, I was on Diane 35. It's the heaviest pill. You're only technically allowed to be on that for 2 years. I've been on
Mm.
it since I was 14 till 27.
Wow. They never took you
Um,
off.
they never took me off. They just kept renewing, the recipe for it. They kept refreshing it. And at age 27, when I got off, I, first, for one, I wish back then there were already more conversations about it, but back then they weren't really, except for anecdotal, like, the people around you. But going off birth control, for one, cost me a relationship, right? Because I was not attracted to my partner anymore because the birth control pill suppresses natural compatibility and natural processes that we experience when connecting to someone. So it cost me a relationship, for one. Two, um, every day waking up, like I think after a month of, it was still a long time after getting off, like let's say 4, 5, 6 months or something, it literally felt like layer of like floor cloud, like mist, got
Mm-hmm.
erased from me energetically, like hormonally and visually. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things that if you drive with dirty glasses your whole life, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't know how dirty they are until you start cleaning them. And
Right.
that's literally how life felt.
Right. Yeah. I think it's that again, see that, and that's the thing. Like, it's fine, right? It's not that what put anything on the table, put whatever vice you want on the table, any behavior, any habit, whatever, any lifestyle, put it on the table. But you cannot take away the consequences of that behavior. There's natural consequences. Take away the legality. In a world where there's no laws about it, there's still the law of reality, and there's still that consequence. So it's like what we're trying to do, what we kept trying to do in the name of liberation,
Mm-hmm.
is, navigate this thing of the consequences and say, okay, she can go out and sleep with whoever she wants. Fine. But then she's going to keep getting pregnant. I mean, she's going to keep getting pregnant. She's going to get diseases. What the fuck? And it's like, oh, okay. Don't worry. We'll come up with something. Oh, here's some birth control. Now she won't get pregnant. Okay. But what about the STDs? Okay. Well, we'll come up with condoms. We'll do this. And it's just like, okay, but what you're really trying to do is skydive. Okay.
Right. And
That's
and you're
skydiving.
and you're just as a collective and cultural and media and marketing aspect, you're just focusing on the symptoms rather than like what are we doing here?
At the end of the day, though, what is driving this person to live a life like this should have been addressed at some point, right? That's my beef with like the pro-life movement, because they're all sitting at the clinics, and I'm like, what the fuck
There
are
we
you doing
go.
at the clinic? Your ass should have
Word.
been there when she was 12,
Right.
teaching her self-worth and addressing her fucking daddy issues. Like, you should have been there at 12, not at fucking 24, when she's like, ah, shit, I slept around enough and now I got knocked up. That's not where you belong. And I'm like, and it's like, I've had that conversation before, and it's like,
if we again we need these things. I want them to repeat as much as time because coming in America, the red people love me for being like, I'm not for abortion, and the blue people are like, oh well, they understand my kind of in between. But I'm very vocal on this. For one, like the abortion legislation laws and etc. For
mm-hmm.
one, I'm not having any conversations with people who are anti-abortion but have had unprotected sex because high hypocrite.
Mm-hmm.
And for the people who are pro-abortion but have unprotected sex, I'm not having a conversation with you either because you lack responsibility.
Right. We're just it can, but at the end, it's like, it's the thing is like, I'm just talking about this in a more dispassionate way, where I'm saying, look, all you keep doing is coming up with ways to mitigate consequences to action, but you're not questioning the action and whether or not that was a reasonable thing to do in the first place, right? So they're never accountable. That's the thing. We're trying to dodge the accountability by trying to get rid of the consequence. And that's where I completely just part ways with feminism, is because that's what you're ultimately selling me. You're selling me an unaccountable life, a purposeless life, an unconnected and detached life, right? All of which is to tell me that you're balkanizing society through women, and you're attacking us. It's an attack on society by saying we need to detach you from everything so that you don't ever really feel like you're part of anything, and it's like, to me, that's insidious, right? So when you have, this boss babe shit circulating, or when you have any of this other stuff circulating, what it's doing is it's saying, don't even think about connecting. Don't even think about having a purpose. Don't even think about picking up that thing and getting a job or starting a business. You're boss the way you are. You're fine just the way you are. And it's like, to me, it's like, look, There's a difference between not shaming yourself on a daily basis and flogging yourself for not being perfect. We are not perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And saying, I love you for who you are, but I think we can do better. There's
And
nothing wrong with
right,
saying that.
right. And emphasizing you are not good the way you are.
Right,
You can be loved, you can be,
right.
but this absolutely dysmorphic fucking dystopian world we have now, mostly like, originating from the online worlds, ended
Yeah.
up in where where again, it started off well, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
initial seed was, I don't want you to live in shame for the fact of who you are right now.
Right,
Right now is the caveat, right?
right,
And it
right,
morphed into everything shitty about you. Your morbidly obesity, your narcissistic tendencies are
right.
great. And I'm like,
Yeah.
is everyone on the same fucking crack?
Right. It's all self-indulgence, and to not indulge them and not co-sign that is to basically be a bigot. And it's like, well, the thing is, and I, what, it's interesting because I keep getting hit with, what's it to you? It's not your life. If you don't like it, keep scrolling. La la la. It's like, what's it to me? In the same way, what's it to me is like, well, you put it out there in public on a screen for me to see it. You wanted me to see it.
You,
That's it.
yep,
You
there we
wanted me
go.
to see it, and when I see shit, I judge shit. That's what I do. It doesn't fucking matter what it is. And there's a difference between saying it somehow viscerally affects me in some emotional way versus I already know that's some shit and I can just keep scrolling. But I will call it shit first and then keep scrolling and not give it a second thought. Right? I think people think that for me to judge something, I have to be emotionally attached to it. I'm not. I'm not, because that's not
The
what.
emotionals only think that, right?
Well, right, exactly. And I said, and it's like, what's it to you? Well, what it is to me is a bunch of shit. Well, it doesn't affect you. Correct. It doesn't. It affects you. And the fact that you're indulging it, and the fact that you're co-signing it, and the fact that you're high-fiving this bitch right now for being this fucking guttural
And the
loser.
fact that you're marketing it, right? Like you're
Yeah, and
marketing it
you're
as a good thing.
correct. Yes. I mean, and of course, in the fact that you have no path forward in self-acceptance and self-awareness. Like, you have no path forward. You have painted yourself in to this thing, and you've walled it up to where it's like, this is it. I've peaked. Oh, you've peaked. This is it. I mean, we used to joke about people like this when they were like the popular kids in school, and then that was their big fucking shining moment, and now they're still working at a gas station, at 55, and you're just like, that was your peak. That was it. That was your big fucking heyday. Being prom king, and now you're just trying to hold down a job at the Circle K. It's like, fine, but like, you peaked. It's done. Everything else is downhill from here. Then, so, and that's the thing, when I see people saying, it's okay to be this, it's okay to be that, you know, instead, this one that's circulating lately, people are all focused on my response, but they're not looking at the person who hurt me and their behavior. And it's like, well, yeah,
Because you
because
are the one talking.
yeah, because you made it about you. So we're going to talk about you now. Like, like, first of all, look, it's not hard to say somebody was an asshole.
Right.
Somebody was an asshole. Okay. But they're not here right now talking to me. You are.
You are and again, I'm pausing constantly because so fucking potent. Not only is that we're not talking about that asshole, you are marketing your victim position to me and
That's
want me
right.
to buy it.
Mm.
Or expecting as sale exchange, you're expecting certain empathy, sympathy, whatever the fuck mental mechanism, mental masturbation you got going on for yourself,
Yeah.
like, fucking bukkake, fucking mental masturbation at that point, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're selling me. So yes,
Well,
let's talk about you.
well, that's right. And so the question is, it's like, you're so worried. So you're saying, let me just then break down, right? And dismantle what you're saying. You're saying, why are you focused on my response when we should be focused on how they treated me and disrespected me? And it's like, because if you worked on your response, you wouldn't still be talking about their disrespect and living in the goddamn past. You'd be over it by now, but you're not. So your response is still happening, by the way. So that asshole's transgression on you, I will fully accept the fact that he was a full dick. That's fine.
Sure.
He was a whole asshole. That's fine.
And
but
now he lives rent free in your life.
That's right. That event has long since passed. They're gone. They've left the room. And the call is coming from inside the motherfucking house. So I need you to address your response. I need you to address your response, because if you started fixing that and you didn't give it the dignity of your response in the first place, you wouldn't be sitting here a goddamn mess on social media saying, what about them? Who gives a shit about them? Why? You give a shit about them, apparently. Why should I? They didn't do anything to me. Like, fix your shit.
Since we're hashtag insulting you into a better life, or whatever, our hashtag is going to be, let's walk us through. Like, I can give a personal scenario, and I would love for you one to, or whether a personal or example to give one. So let's say you got a bad relationship, right? It doesn't even matter. So that relationship, the dynamic shifts to perhaps an unhealthy, toxic, perhaps even abusive, somewhere on this spectrum, and you end up somehow leaving it. So how do you heal from that? What's the process that you have to personally, introspectionally go through to get over that and not become that, regurgitate like a fucking victim, mental masturbation online?
I think that, so for me, I look at it like, I think for me, it's easy. It's easier for me to start using analogies that help better for me to picture it, right? Because I'm dealing with abstract things like feelings, right? And I'm dealing with abstract things like, I don't know, like just general processing, psychological processing. Those are all abstract. They're not tangible things, right? And for me, I like things to be more tangible. So I couch them in that way. So my thing is that each person on the planet is writing a book, and that chapter has ended, and there's no turning the page back. But I'm really looking forward to what happens next to the protagonist, me, right? And what the future holds, right? What happens next? I should be looking at the next day with bated breath, saying, what happens now? Holy shit, that was heavy. Now what? And getting excited about it. A. B, that was one character in the credits of your story. They're not the main character of your universe, you are. And therefore, you need to act that way and start handling your business accordingly. Because otherwise, what you're going to try and do is force fit your book with his or hers. Okay. And it's never going to work, because if he's the main character of his book, as he should be, then where do you fit in this? You're always going to feel less than. You're always going to feel diminutive. And that's because you're not living your life for you. You're living your life for him. And you've all but just abdicated it over. You just relinquished it or something in some sort of weird subservient way. And people do that. People do that and they don't realize it. They do it to their kids, which is horrible. It's unhealthy. They call it love, but it's disgusting. And they call it love when they do it to their partners, and partners can't handle that. It's very suffocating. You've put a lot on them that they didn't sign up for. Wait, I thought you were a grown ass woman, and you're coming at me like a dependent, like a child. And I'm not here for a child. I'm here for a grown ass woman. So what the fuck, and it gets really off putting, it does. It gets suffocating and all that stuff. So next chapter, that's step one. Step two would be, is to look at it like a timeline, right? And this was something that I did because loss is hard. People don't like loss, and people think that loss has to linger out of respect. And I don't understand that shit. I have no idea where that came from. Like when somebody dies, right? If somebody dies, there's a certain amount of time that I need to spend mourning. I don't even know what the fuck that means, mourning. I've lost people to death. I mean, but I don't understand this mourning period. Like, I'm like, you mean just processing the fact that they're no longer here and getting used to it, you mean? No. That would be disrespectful, because then you're moving on and you're acting as if they never existed. And it's like, no, I'm not acting like they never existed. They just don't exist now. I'm acting like they don't exist now because they fucking don't. Like, they did exist in the past tense because they're dead, and this was
Right.
something that it was a big thing between my sister, my little sister and I. We don't talk because of this. She really thought that, she said something that just fucking struck me. She says, because our dad died like 7 years ago. And I said, and she's like, well, I wouldn't be sad if he didn't die. And I said, did you just blame a dead man for your sadness? Because that sounds awfully disrespectful from where I'm sitting. And she just blocked me after that. And I said, yeah, here's the thing. It was a moment in time that, and a sad thing happened. And I can acknowledge that it is sad that he's gone. But if we are to talk about real respect for loss, no matter what you've lost, right? An abusive person, mother, spouse, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, that loss, because it is loss. It's still
Mm-hmm.
loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just someone's living versus someone's dying, but they're not in your life anymore. So you're still talking about them in the past tense regardless. The loss of that person, you need to find a way to say, you know what? The only way that I can have that memory in my life, is to focus on the things that I got from it. That's it. And I got something from everybody. When you lose, you learn. So you got something. You did. Even from the biggest asshole, you got something. And what you can get from the biggest asshole in your life is the lesson of what you did to attract it. Something in you and something in him were drawn together. And it wasn't just that he was cute and you were cute. There's way more to it than that. You know as well as I do. You were just talking about birth control and how that suppresses a lot of the hormonal attractions. There's pheromones. And I don't know. I'm not big on the woo-woo thing. I don't know it very well, so I'm not going to try and speak to it. But our behavior, the way we comport ourselves, carry ourselves, speak in the world, the words we put out there, the monologue we have in our head, all of that culminates into something that you put out into the world, and people start to recognize it. And to pretend like there aren't predators and prey is, again, ignoring consequence, ignoring reality. There absolutely are predators. So the question is, what kind of prey behavior were you engaging in that got that predator hot on your shit? Because that's what he liked about you. He liked
Right.
something meek about you.
Right.
You were a fucking field mouse and he's a fucking hawk. What
Right.
the hell can you do to get out of that field mouse mentality
Right.
and start walking like a hawk,
Right. And absolutely. And I do think there's not enough talk about how, because I think it originally stems down to your acceptance of deservingness, right? Of how self-worth, self-acceptance, how much do you think you deserve? What's your level of havingness, as some psychology corners
Mm.
say. And I think that there is still this almost like 80s psychology floating around, that certain relational dynamics happened to only, like, very like classically like weak women, soft women, pushovers. Meanwhile, we, especially upon growing up, when you're still finding out life, figuring out and growing yourself, right? I don't want to say finding out who you are, but growing yourself and all the facets that you as a personality and integrity and everything, the characteristics that come with that,
Yeah.
is that we are part somewhere of the drama triangle, right? So you're either
Yeah.
a perpetrator, or you are a, so again, whether it's, you're your inner child, or there's something like, or the inner victim, or you're dysregulated. It, regardless of the vocabulary and semantics,
Mm.
you fall somewhere on that spectrum.
Yeah.
And like, I've had one really bad relationship, and it was during like my mid 20s, I think, early 20s, and I was balling career wise, right? Like, I am flying on private jets, I'm making more money than I'm probably even making right now. And so it was odd, even on a psychological level, that, how am I so strong and good at this, but how did I end up in a fucking messed up relationship?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what it is, it's not, I don't want to go to, the abuse, because at this point, I feel like Johnny Depp and what's her fucking face,
Amber
Amber,
Heard.
are the
Yeah.
perfect example of that, where it's not
Yeah.
even, there's not even one perpetrator anymore. Like,
No.
this is a whole fucking dance between
Yeah.
people. And I'm just like, what's everyone doing? Meanwhile,
Right.
while you're in it, it's
Yeah.
very attractive to, put on one role. Oh no, I am this role, and whether I'm the bad one or
Right.
he's the bad one or whatever type of thing.
Yeah.
But it all stems down to um, lack of. Okay, aside from the drama triangle, let's
Mm.
even go for someone like me who came from an absolutely chaotic and turbulent background. That is just lack of skills. Like, I have
Yeah.
never
There we go.
been shown constructive, productive dynamics in a romantic sense. So
Mm.
it's not even a lack of willingness of wanting, but it's just like I've never seen it, for one.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then when I have seen it, I have absolutely no skill built in me to participate in such dynamics.
Mm.
Um, and then you get through, like, what's life and whatever, like psychological and mental concepts. But it's a skill, right? Like,
Right.
the skills that contribute to healthy dynamics, friendship, business wise, romantic, all of them
That's right.
are skills that need to be taught.
Right. Right. These are social integration skills, right? And typically, right, in a not that distant past, we taught each other the same way we teach language.
Right.
We did. We slapped each other's wrists when we were out of line, and we weren't afraid to say it, and that existed. We had structure. We had, the do's and don'ts, right? And I'm not just talking about school. I'm talking about just being put in a group situation, whatever that might be, right? And you figured out, and people kind of picked up on social cues, like we learned to do that because look, each situation is going to be unique. My parents
Mm-hmm.
can't prepare me for everything, but there needs to be some sort of thing. But that's the thing, right? It's like, I didn't know that at 27, when I got married, that I was actually still learning. I thought I was done because I'm
You have
getting
it figured
married.
out.
That's right.
Figured out.
This is the period to the sentence of my relationships. I've hit it. I've arrived. I am no longer learning. Now I'm just going to grow. That's literally what I thought was happening, right? Is that I can stop dating because I'm married now. And then I don't have to worry about, any of the other shit that comes with dating
Mm-hmm.
and all that other stuff, which is true, but I didn't realize I was still learning.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that I knew it all. I just thought, we're done. All that
Yeah.
other shit is done. I don't have to wonder anymore if he likes me, if he's going to call me, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't have to worry. There's no more wondering. The mystery is solved. We love each other. We're getting married, so I didn't realize that there were a lot of things about relationships and marriage in particular that I legit did not know, and my parents didn't know. Their
Mm-hmm.
parents knew, but didn't know to teach it. They just knew to do it. And it got diluted over time, which is what happens, right? You have a really good thing that the older generations did. Then the next generation does it, but doesn't know why. And then the next generation doesn't learn it at all. And then the next generation witnessed it, but didn't do it. And then the final generation after that is like, what the fuck is this? I've never seen this before in my life. I
Mm-hmm.
just discovered something new. No, you didn't. It's some old shit. And it's just new to you, like that's why I joke about it online all the time. It's just like, because, there's a lot of people who are saying, oh, I just discovered this new thing. And it's like, no, you didn't. It's been around. People just didn't teach you, and that's sad. That's what's really sad about it. That's the saddest part of those revelations is that, well, it's funny because we know better. We really weren't taught these things. Like, for example, no one told me, not a soul told me that marriage is an economic institution. No one said it, not a soul. And the reason why they didn't say it was because it's such a buzzkill to say something like that when you're all, I love him, and he's so cute, and he did this cute thing the other day, and I just love him, and nobody wants to say, okay, well, marriage is an economic institution, bitch.
It's a business contract.
It is. It's a
Yeah.
business contract. It's a partnership in a business, the business of your home.
Mm-hmm.
Building legacy and building enterprise from your home. Like that is a thing, right? The word economy, literally derives from the Greek, right? Ecos, household, nomi, management. It is literally that, and I didn't know it. Like I just didn't. And I mean, it just that was a whole miss. But that was a miss on my part. That was a miss on my part because I was like, wait a minute. I thought we were in a partnership. I thought we were doing this. I thought that was my job. And I had it like an inkling, like something in me that was like, this is off. This is not right. Versus actually knowing why. Going into it with my eyes wide open, fully intentional, saying, I know what I want out of this marriage. This is what I expect. This is what you expect. This is what I'm going to do. This is what you're going to do. What the CEO and the CFO sit down and absolutely have that conversation, and no feelings are hurt. People walk away fucking happy. Mm-hmm. So what the hell happened where in a marriage we don't have that conversation of what our roles are and responsibilities are in the business of this house? Like, why aren't we talking about how the money's coming in? Why aren't we talking about shit like that?
Right.
Business.
And to attribute to that, just because we can acknowledge, just because we have to acknowledge the business of house management, that doesn't take away from the spiritual and emotional union and the sacred, 100%. Right? Like they go together.
Well, one feeds the other. That's the thing, is like, so the love that you have, right? So when you go into a marriage, you have a lot of infatuation, you have a lot of admiration, you have a lot of passion, you have a lot of respect, right? You have a lot of foundational things here. What the love that you had when you got married is not going to resemble the love that you build 20 years from now. Not at all. In fact, it will be this, you will look back on its infancy and see it as infant love, really. Because how mature and how big, how deep and sophisticated it will get through the trials and tribulations of a relationship is not something that you could even measure. So what you have is a foundation to build on, but if nobody goes and lays the bricks, that shit falls apart. It's abandoned property,
Right.
And
it's just land. Yeah.
That's right. So love, what everybody calls love, is not the thing. It's not the flighty butterflies in my stomach. That's infatuation. That's horny. But that's not love. Love is that respect, the admiration. Every time you look at him, he strikes this thing in you that he's doing something. You're just like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
That's my name.
There's a pride in it.
There's a lot of that. Yes, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, and he's looking at you saying, fuck yes.
And
I walk into the room, yeah.
Right. And there's an honor in it, right? Like how, absolutely. Like I feel honored that I get to witness, be part of.
That's right. It's your privilege.
Companionship
That's right. I lucked out. Exactly. And you're like, I hit the jackpot, and you feel wealthier for having them in your life. Like that. Woo! That is, you know what I'm saying? Like this is not, none of this sounds very romantic because it's not what it's depicted in movies and in books, and in stories. But this is romance. This is what turns you on about him. It's like, holy shit. He just came out, he just freaking split all the fucking firewood and the cordwood for wintertime, and his ass
because I am cold.
I am fucking cold, and his ass did that. He went out and started the car for me and got the fucking thing preheated because I'm cold and I got to stay inside. You're getting a blowjob later.
Sis!
You just stood up for me. You just stood up for me and made me feel safe in public. It's on.
Maybe there's a blowjob waiting for you at home.
That's right. That's right. And it's like, no, absolutely. That's how, because that shit hits much harder than his eyes are so dreamy. Oh my God. Like I was like, no, it's like his eyes are dreamy, great, but like that's the initial, right? That's like saying no. That's like saying like like people talk about family all the time, family
Mm-hmm.
relationships. It's different because it's family. No, it's fucking not. That's just
Word.
how you met. That's just
Mm-hmm.
how you met.
Mm-hmm.
That's not your whole relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how you met. Like you met because you came out of the same vagina, not
Right.
because of anything else. You
Word.
literally didn't even try. Like the question is, would you still hang out with each other if that weren't the case? If you guys weren't holed up together in this house, would you still hang out with them in high school?
Yes or no.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
Same thing. Like that, and that's the thing. So it's like, same thing with how you met your spouse. Initial attraction is what gets your foot in the door. That's like, I like your resume, bro.
Yeah.
Right? But I haven't interviewed you yet.
Right.
I don't know if you're right for the job. Just
and
because
and
you look
and vice
attractive doesn't
versa,
mean
right?
right,
Because I'm
exactly.
also simultaneously like, hey, I like your resume. That's a great phrase, by the way. That we're gonna make that into a meme. Like, bro, I like your resume. I haven't interviewed you yet. While simultaneously, I'm applying for your
Sure.
position,
That's right.
right?
That's right. You appear to have liked my resume as well. Great.
Word.
So
Mm-hmm.
now we're past that. We've
Right.
acknowledged that we both find each other attractive.
Mm-hmm.
That's over now. That's the
Right.
extent to which
Mm-hmm.
that lasts. Now it's about the thing is the things that start attracting you about the person as you get to know them go
Oh
beyond
shit!
your face.
I know. Don't know if. Wait 1 second, because you were freezing up.
Oh,
Stop right now. Thank you very much. Stop. 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 Okay. You have to completely, after this is where it ends, you have to completely start over because you froze up. And I don't know which end it was.
okay.
Okay, you're
So
back. Yeah.
okay. So well, yeah, so this is where it ends, right? Then everything that you find attractive about them thereafter has very little to do with the fact that he has dreamy eyes and a cute smile.
Word.
It has very little to do with that. What ends up happening is you're associating that face with all that shit and all that behavior and all of that like ethic and all of that character. And now you've made that's the face that represents the real shit that you're attracted to and the things that you're sticking around for, you know? And so I think that's where I got mixed up. I did. I own it. I fucked up. I did not get it. And then when I got it, it was, I'm like knee deep in
You're
shit.
freezing up on me again.
Oh,
Wait, stop, stop. Freezing up.
can you see me? Can I?
So, my dear listeners, so I can't hear Kelly anymore. So, Kelly, I think we've reached like we're going because you completely froze up again. So maybe we need to caveat it and do this next week again, and like or continue from here, right? I'll make notes so we continue from here. Let this be a two-part episode about one subject. Because the internet got I don't know. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, absolutely beautiful. I will, and in the next episode, I will replay the end of this, so we're looping back, so everyone gets reminded on where we have left off. Everyone listening, fearless wealth, diamonds and demons, hashtag insults that will better your life, or some kind of, follow us for more like insults that will better your life, or something like this. Kelly, I love you so much.
Bye.
Wait, were you almost hanging up, leaving us, leaving me, and everyone in this podcast without liking, subscribing, and putting on that bell notification? Nah, that's not cool. Come on, do it. And if you're feeling extra feisty today, share, tag me, and tell me what you like the most about the episode. Let's hear it in the comments. Let's hear it on all the platforms. I'll see you in the next episode.